Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 145 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's guest is Houman Ashrafzadeh, the founder of Padium, London's premium padel club in the heart of Canary Wharf. Houman is a serial entrepreneur who, in addition to Padium, also founded Urban Green's salad bar, Coffydoor, and 360 Capital. His latest venture, Padium, is backed by Spotify co-founder Martin Lorentzon, who also is a big padel enthusiast. In this episode, we spoke about the padel landscape in the UK, learnings from the Swedish Model, challenges from starting a restaurant just before COVID, why he chose Canary Wharf as the location for Padium, what Houman has learned from Spotify co-founder Martin Lorentzon, and much more. Houman Ashrafzadeh, welcome to the Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you so much, Marcus.
You are the founder of Padium, London's premium padel club in the heart of Canary Wharf. So can you tell us a little bit about Padium?
Yes, sure. Padium is one of my new projects. I've been working on it for quite some time. It's been in the works for probably around 3.5 years. Just a short intro here. I've lived in London for the past 20 years, but I grew up in Sweden. And I think when I started getting my first exposure to padel, it was in my hometown in Helsingborg in Sweden during my trips back home. And I discovered the sport. I started playing it together with my brother and his friends, and I instantly fell in love with the game. And back then, there were only 2 courts available, if I remember correctly, in London. And they were outdoor, and they were both impossible to book. And, outdoor courts in London, it rains all the time. So it was just not optimal. So I started looking into the industry and quickly realized that there's a gap in the market. There's a complete vacuum of padel in the UK. This is probably around 3 years ago. And that's when the idea came to me. And at first I said, maybe I should just raise some money and open up a very basic club, but realized that no one actually knows what padel is. So my mind started going into a different direction where I thought, I should build something more of a flagship. I built a brand around it, and that's how Padium came to life. And that was the initial idea behind it.
Interesting. So I know it took some time to get things started. You worked on this for, I think, 2.5 years before you opened. So how did it go from an idea and these 2.5 years until you opened?
So the idea was actually even longer than the 2.5 years. The 2.5 years it took was probably from when we started engaging with Canary Wharf. So if I go back further in time, as I said, my idea was to just build something more basic. I was looking to raise money. I wasn't getting any traction with raising money because I was trying to do so in the UK, in London. No one was familiar with the sport. But if we fast forward to the time when Martin Lorentzon got involved, my business partner, and I started engaging with Canary Wharf, we initially were looking at another site, an alternative site, which was in Wood Wharf. And we spent probably 8 months drawing up, designing, having engineers, and working on that plot. Quite far into the process, around 6 months into the process, I was told that there was going to be a tenant underneath in the basement of that building, and they needed fire exits to come out in between the courts. So all of a sudden, we had to redesign and rebuild this because we had to have 4 fire exits coming up as like corridors in between the courts. And it would just not have been the nice experience that I had in my mind. So we pushed for a redesign and to build, completely redesign this. And it would have been complicated and would be very costly. But instead of just scrapping the idea, Canary Wharf came up with an alternative plan to move us over to Bank Street. Now, Bank Street was very complicated because it was on 15 meters of scaffold. That plot of land that we are on was supposed to be another skyscraper. So, it was just a 15-meter hole that they had filled with scaffolds and just built like a meantime park. And for us to build a paddle club on top with canopies and everything, it required us to re-strengthen and do a lot of work with that scaffolding so that it would bear all the weight and loads and wind and all these sort of factors. So that's what took a long, long time. We had lots of works with engineers on both sides. making sure that all these forces would be able to withhold once we built. So that was one of partly the reason why so much time was taken. But also when we started building, we had to then pour concrete, and then we had a really cold winter, and that winter also delayed us because you need to have a certain temperature over a consecutive certain number of days in order to pour the concrete, and it was just delayed by a couple of months because it was so cold. So yeah, some of those reasons.
I see. Yeah, and you mentioned you're from Helsingborg, which is kind of the padel mecca in Sweden. And the Swedish model of padel has been something that has been talked about, that it really exploded during COVID. And now some of these places have had to close and the curve has flattened out a little bit. So are there any learnings that you took from Sweden before now when you implemented in London?
Yeah, I mean, apart from the fact that in Sweden we have so many clubs close to each other, and there was no sort of control on how many clubs are opening up in the same place. I don't think we'll have the same issue in the UK, because the process of opening up clubs is just much slower with planning permissions and things like that. But I would say the learning would be that we have seen in cities, even in Helsingborg, when you have multiple clubs, the clubs that are doing the best are the ones that are managing to create a community, build a club where it's not just a couple of courts and some changing rooms. You need to build it in a way where you have a lot of activities going on, a good schedule with lectures and classes and these sort of things, tournaments. These are the things that brings people together, and you have to differentiate yourself that way. And I think we put a lot of effort into making sure that our club has all those elements from the very beginning. Even though, you could argue that you don't necessarily need that right now in London because there's such a high demand for courts and you don't necessarily need all those extra things. But for me, it was important to build that into the culture from day one. We're building a community, and I think that's important.
So you have 7 indoor courts and 1 outdoor court, correct?
Yes, that's correct. But soon 1 additional outdoor court. So we're expanding slightly.
And do you have a center court and in order to, host events and tournaments and so forth?
Yeah, so on the indoor courts, 6 of them are on the sides and then 1 center court. And the center court has enough space for players to run out if they need to. And we also have a AI camera that when people play, they can get their matches, sort of the match reports analysis sent to them. So yeah, and then we have a mezzanine floor as well, which is basically made for tournaments and events. So a lot of, you can have 100 people up there either just watching the games or hanging out before and after the game. So yeah, we've done a lot of tournaments and we do a lot of corporate events as well.
I spoke to Sandy from the padel school a while back, and he, of course, as a coach, is emphasizing a lot the coaching aspect, to have a proper education for coaches, but also for players in order to grow the sport organically. Is that something that you have incorporated also at the Padium?
Yes, definitely. We have great coaches working for us, and we put a lot of emphasis in putting together a curriculum for the coaches that makes sense. And through the coaches, we do a variation of different types of classes and academies that are suitable both for beginners, but also for intermediates, but also for the more advanced. And we do that in variations of ways, like intro to paddle sessions, and we do club nights, various different academies, but also private sessions. And yeah, our coaches have been super busy since we started 6 months ago. And yeah, huge demand. A lot of people have just heard about paddle and they want to come in and do some sessions. And it's a great way to get into the game.
So how is the interest for paddle and the paddle landscape in UK?
Well, I can only judge right now based on what we see at Padium. And I would say it's crazy high demand. A lot of people are looking, we have lots of new customers coming in every single week. And the ones that come and play, they keep coming back because they find it so much fun. And then I think on a weekly basis, we probably get 20, 30 emails from prospects that just email us and saying, hey, I've heard about paddle. I want to come and try. How does it work? So yeah, it's pretty big. And I see that it keeps going up and up. And just a couple of weeks ago, we expanded our opening hours to 11 o'clock at night instead of 10 o'clock at night. And it didn't take longer than a week for those 10 to 11 p.m. slots to fill up as well. And now we're full every day till 11 p.m. So yeah, it's crazy. And we're now considering opening up to 12 just because the demand is there.
I see. Is it a pay and play structure, or is it a membership based, or how are you working there?
I really like that Swedish model that I had seen myself in Sweden, which is pay and play. Myself, I've lived in London a long time, as I said, and with different sort of clubs in racket sports, I was always, they require you to have a membership, and it is long waiting line to get a membership. I just didn't like that. I wanted things to be more inclusive, so I incorporated a pay and play model. Everyone's welcome. However, we have an element of membership as well. So the membership elements allows you to book further in advance than non-members, and you also get discounts on our off-peak hours. So there are definitely perks of having a membership if you're really keen and you want to play on certain hours of the day, especially now as we're just growing in popularity and we have a lot of customers now. So if you really want to have that Tuesday 7 p.m. slot, I think you would not be able to get it if you don't have a membership.
So talking about the location, for those of us who are not super familiar with London, we said it's in the heart of Canary Wharf in London. So explain a little bit the area.
So Canary Wharf, if we go back in history, it was the financial district or the extended financial district of London. So it was opened up. It was developed, I think, 30 years ago, something like that. And initially only had banks and law firms on that plot of land, which is in East London, further out from. If the initial financial district was in the area of Liverpool Street, this was an extension because London needed more space for this. So Canary Wharf was developed, and it was a brand new area that developed. You have skyscrapers, and every building in there is just super modern. Obviously, after pandemic has slightly shifted, people are not working from the office the same amount as before. So Canary Wharf has also gone through this transition of changing that area into more of a lifestyle. So yeah, I would say it's super accessible, the area by train from central London. It takes probably 15-20 minutes to get to from Bond Street, which is central London, towards the east. And we've seen a lot of players coming both from local, but also coming in from central London. So yeah, super accessible, great location. We're in between the banks. Our next door neighbor is Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan. And we have a lot of those boys coming and playing all the time. So it's great. But as I said, lots of people coming from central London too, which is really fun.
Of course, taking learnings from Sweden, sometimes they are very remote located that are difficult to go to if you don't have a car. So having that opportunity to go with a train from central London and easy accessible is a huge win, I would think.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I myself, I live in central London, and I make that journey to go and play with my friends, and it's just convenient. And as I may have said before, we have nice changing rooms. You don't necessarily need to go out of your day. You can go and play and then continue your day afterwards, like any other sort of premium gym you would go to.
Your co-founder at Padium is Martin Lorentzon, and for those who doesn't know him, he is also the co-founder of Spotify. So how has it been to work together with him, and are there some learnings that you've taken from his entrepreneurship and how he is doing business?
Yeah, it's amazing to be business partners with such a successful entrepreneur. His mind is so grand, like the visions that he has. It's interesting because when you speak to him about business, he thinks big, and you get a different perspective of things. So it's really, really interesting to have that element and that perspective of things when you think big. And then I'm obviously on the ground and I'm looking at smaller things, but I also have a bigger vision. But his vision is even bigger. He's more like, how do we change the world for better, for example? So how do we do this on a padel point of view? So no, it's incredible. He trusted in me from day one, and he's been a great business partner. He's brought me a lot of credibility. He's opened up a lot of doors, and continuing to do so as we grow. So we're looking to expand across the UK, and his name is definitely adding a lot of value for when we speak to different partners. He's not involved on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, he's got other things to do, but he's from a strategic point of view, he's there.
But he's not a passive investor, but he's not just on the day to day.
Yeah, he's not day to day at all. At all. It's more about like strategy. We discuss. In fact, I'm in Stockholm right now. I met with him, and we had a conversation this morning about what our future plans are, for example. And he's very passionate about paddle, which helps. And he definitely wants to get involved when it comes to the nitty-gritty details of the club. Things like ceiling height really matters, which kind of clubs and courts we're implementing, and things like that. So he obviously knows the sport and he knows all the technicalities. That's really good. But his value add is definitely on the bigger things.
I see. So now after this meeting, what are the future plans for Padium?
So we definitely want to, I mean, my vision is to be the biggest and the most premium brand of paddle in the UK. And we want to grow across the UK in good locations. My idea is to build clubs that are, as I said, like community builders. I want to have clubs that have that little extra where the experience is a little bit extra as a player, both, before the game, during the game, and after the game. All those elements and levels and phases of your game should be something a little bit extra at Padium. And that's what I want to implement at various different locations in the UK. And we have a few clubs in our pipeline. Nothing I can mention right now, that once they're fully confirmed, I'll announce them. But yeah, we have big visions, big plans ahead.
Can you say if there are any specific cities or areas that you're targeting?
I mean, all major cities in the UK, but also continue to grow within London region and within central London and outside. I know it's difficult to grow within central London, but that's our goal. We definitely want to take on more central locations like the one we have.
You are yourself, you're a serial entrepreneur. You're the co-founder of Coffydoor coffee company, also co-founder of Urban Greens UK, and now Padium. So when did this entrepreneurial journey start?
The journey really started when I was probably 12 years old, 13 years old. I always had it in me. I remember buying MP3 players as a 12, 13-year-old from China and selling them on Swedish Blocket, as a little side hustle. So I always had that inside of me somehow. But at the same time, I had a dream to go and work in finance in the banks, which I pursued. And I worked in the corporate world for maybe 10 years in banking and management consultancy. But I think the real step into entrepreneurship was probably around 6 years ago, when I, together with two friends, very good friends of mine from university, we decided to open up Urban Greens. And that's, again, I having grown up in Sweden, I saw similar concepts in Sweden. Together with my co-founders, we saw them here and we saw them in the US, healthy fast food. And in London back then, it was just not existing. People were having sandwiches and crisps for lunch. So we wanted to bring something new to the market, and that's when Urban Greens was born. We launched our first restaurant in July 2019, just before the pandemic, so perfect timing there. That was when I quit my job in the corporate world and started my own thing. And since then I've never looked back into going back to corporate. I've loved the entrepreneurship. It's a great. It's great for me. I really enjoy it. I love creating something. I love having an idea and that slowly comes to life and starts with a spreadsheet. And, a few years down the line, you see it on the street somewhere. You have customers and they love it. And that's amazing. I really enjoyed that journey.
Urban Greens, then COVID came, obviously. And also Coffydoor was also approximately in this time frame. So how was this like especially with restaurants, during this period?
COVID was really difficult for us. Luckily, we only had one store at that time. And also the good thing was our food was great. It could easily be delivered far away. It was cold salad. So it wasn't like quality wasn't deteriorating as it was being delivered. So we really pushed into doing deliveries, and that pivot was worked out well for us. So we did fairly well during the COVID. We had lots of lockdowns open and closing during this time in the UK. But yeah, we did well. And as we came out of COVID, we then opened up our second site, which was in Canary Wharf. And then following that, we have 4 stores right now. So we had lots of challenges. And to be honest, when you get into an entrepreneurial path, you're already facing a lot of challenges. It's already difficult as it is. But then facing COVID was also it was tough. But I think coming out of that, including the inflations and, Brexit was also another difficult thing with finding staff. All those things kind of like made us just really resilient. And right now it's, challenges comes our way like any other business, but you're much more prepared for it, or you're prepared that there will be challenges and you just figure out a way to handle them. It made us resilient.
I understand that. So would you say that this is the biggest bump that you've had in your entrepreneurial career?
Which one?
COVID.
To be honest, COVID, I would say the aftermath of COVID was even more difficult when Brexit had happened in the UK. All the people in hospitality that used to work there were no longer in London, and it was next to impossible finding staff. And at the same time, prices of everything had gone up. I think that was probably the most difficult part. COVID was okay because we managed to go through it. The part afterwards was much more difficult.
So you mentioned one of the Urban Green stores is also in Canary Wharf. So then you have a healthy lunch and then you can play some padel all in the same place.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually offer our customers at Padium 20% discount. If they play the game, they can go and pick up a lunch at a discount. So yeah, it's perfect.
That's smart. You have said that you have developed a unique skill set and problem-solving approach to business challenges. So how have you developed this type of skills? Is it all, trial and error? Or I know you have also gone to business school, but where have you collected this skill set?
Yeah, I mean, I went to business school and then I worked as a management consultant for a couple of years. I worked in finance as well. I think my years in corporate was definitely good. I collected a lot of tools during those years to be able to deal with different scenarios, especially as a management consultant, where you deal with problems in other companies and you get to see different cases. That was incredible. The value and experience I gathered there was really, really good and sort of helped me through my entrepreneurial journey. But I would say building Urban Greens was definitely the most beneficial things for me that taught me all these things. Because I don't know how many problems we've solved throughout the years with Urban Greens, but it's just so many and they're constant. And you just have to understand, you just have to switch your mindset into how you deal with business challenges. And yeah, I think learning in practice versus learning in school is just day and night. That's much more valuable to me. So at this point, having had multiple businesses, I kind of feel like nothing is impossible. You just, I'm prepared for issues. They will come and challenges will be there on the way. It's just a matter of knowing that they will be there and not stand on your toes and be prepared for them rather than, feeling like they come to you as a shock. I would say that's a big important thing.
Again, back to Sweden, during the peak, there was a lot of places just popping up to hoping to make a quick buck. But in this case, I mean, you have such experience from business, from entrepreneurship. So it feels like, you're building this on a solid foundation and looking at the big picture and not just for the quick buck,
Absolutely. And one thing I learned through this journey of both Urban Greens and Coffydoor is about how to build a brand. And there's so many different aspects of a brand that is important. And that means also having a long-term look at things. I've turned down multiple locations, which I know other padel operators would probably definitely go for because they were not aligned with our brand, because they were not aligned with what my bigger vision is. I have to turn them down, even if that they would have meant, a quick buck. But that's not something I'm interested in. I want to do something more for the long term. And yeah, that comes to every aspect of the business, including like how I work together with my team. I want to create an environment and a culture that they're both proud of to be working at, but also enjoy and they can develop into. So I think that's another very important thing that you need to look at as an operator. And yes, the experience that I have from other businesses similar to this is very, very helpful in this situation.
And regarding the brand, the name, Padium, where did that come from?
When I started this journey, I knew that brand was going to be something I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on. And I appointed a very talented branding agency in London. They're called Poppins Agency. And the CEO is a very good friend of mine, but they're incredible. I wouldn't have hired him just because he's my friend. They're just really, really one of the most talented agencies I've ever worked with. And what my brief was, helped me come up with the name and also obviously the branding. But for the name, I just don't want the name to have padel in it because every company has the name padel and it's just difficult to differentiate between them. And they came up with a few alternatives, and one of them was Padium. And the play is a combination of the word paddle and stadium, because in my mind and vision, when I wanted to build Canary Wharf, was always as if you're walking into an arena, into like a stadium. And that grand vision was also combined into the name. So paddle and stadium became Padium. And some people call it Padium and some call it Padium. I love the name from the very first start, and yeah, super proud of it.
Yeah, it's great, and also like premium, and also kind of in there. And as you said, it's good for the brand maybe that people talk about it. How is it pronounced? Where does it come from? It creates an curiosity and an interest around the brand as well.
Of course, yeah, we thought of that as well. Actually, that there would be, even when we were starting to, just the name idea came up, and some people were pronouncing it one way, and some people were pronouncing it the other way, and it was just like, yeah, there you go. We're already talking about the name.
As a serial entrepreneur that has several successful companies, what is some advice that you would give people who want to start their own company?
Some advice for people who want to start their own company. I would say, when I was a kid, very eager to start my own business, I was sitting in a room trying to like come up with new ideas and be like an inventor. And I think as I grew and became more mature, I started realizing that, you know what, you don't need to reinvent anything. Just take something out there that exists and just make it better. Just improve on it. There's so many touch points on pretty much anything that could be better, and just disrupt that market slightly. You can do it like that. And that becomes simpler. So if you, first of all, from an ID generation point of view, a lot of people want to do something. Just look at what you're passionate about. You need to have a passion for whatever you get involved in, because as I've now mentioned in this conversation, there's going to be a lot of challenges that you go through. And if you're not truly passionate and in love with that project, at some point going to be like, oh, it's not worth it. There's just too many headaches, too many challenges. It's just not going to work out. So be very determined and have a goal. I would say these are some of the very basics. I mean, it's a broad question, but these are some of the very basic fundamentals. I would say that, be very determined and have passion. And the idea doesn't have to be that unique. It's all in the execution of things. And one thing that Martin actually talks about a lot when it comes to entrepreneurship is about, the idea is not that important. It's the execution of it. So I'm very open with ideas that I have. I share them with people. I hear them out. I want to hear their thoughts and feedback and things like that, rather than being very secretive with an idea. Because ultimately, the idea can be as good as you want. It's just, 90% of it is execution.
It's a broad question. I understand that. And I think your answer was great. And in your case, talking about the passion part, coffee, food, paddle, I guess they can sometime, they can overlap a little bit, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
But they are also very different.
They are very different, but at the same time, very similar. They fall into like lifestyle. I love food. I absolutely love food. So Urban Greens was very easy. So is Coffydoor. I love coffee. I love food. But, it's a lifestyle type of a food brand. And Padel is also part of a lifestyle brand. It's not like I'm a paddle nerd. I just love paddle. I like to play it. I'm not the best player. I'm an intermediate player at best right now, but I love it. I love everything that comes with it. So there are definitely, from a lifestyle point of view, these are things that have a lot of commonalities between them. And I think down the line, I will continue build brands within more of a broader lifestyle point of view.
So you still have that eagerness for more investments and more endeavors?
Not right now. I'm very busy right now with things I'm involved with, but I can definitely see that in time I will continue creating something. I love, I build vision boards in Excel. That's where an idea comes to mind, and ideas come to me all the time. And sometimes I write them down when I have an idea, and I'm like, I'll park this one for later. But at some point in future, I will definitely continue doing other stuff.
Looking ahead for the future, we mentioned that you're looking to maybe open up some more Padium locations. With regards to Padium and your other endeavors, in the near future now, what are you working
on? Working on Urban Greens and Padel and Padium, both pretty much 50-50. Both are in a growth phase. So Urban Greens, we have 4 locations. We're opening up another 3 this year. And then we're now for the first time opening up to external capital for Urban Greens. So we're looking to do a raise to take it to the next level. And I think at this point, Urban Greens would be brought to another level where you need someone more of an expert to come in and help us to get it to that level. Because, we're three guys without any real hospitality background, kind of like learned on the job. So we're ready for that stage now, which is super exciting. And Padium as well. I mean, can't go into too much details of where our next locations will be, but there will be a few new locations confirmed in the next few months. And I'm super excited. And, UK is my main market for now. That's what I want to focus on. But there are other emerging markets in Europe for padel, which potentially we'll look at as well. And we've had lots of interest from the Middle East to do something there because we have a lot of Middle Easterns playing at our club and they love the club, they love the brand, they love the full experience and they want to bring it over there. So open to those ideas as well. We'll see, but I'm not rushing. I want to take things, build this in a sustainable way, which, take the right decisions rather than going for a quick buck.
Exciting. Would that be a franchise type of model if you go to Middle East?
It would probably be a license model.
Interesting. For the listeners who now they want to follow, you might drop some, news in the future. How can they follow you or Padium?
Well, I'm not very big on social media, so I'm not really the best person to follow personally on Instagram. But Padium UK on Instagram is to be followed if you want to hear about what happens with Padium, or just follow me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the best way.
Awesome. I will put the channels in the description below.
Good stuff.
Houman, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you so much, Marcus. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.